Well, guys, it's the appointed time. And first of all, I'd like to say good afternoon to everybody. My name is Wayne Heath. I'm a lieutenant with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. And on behalf of myself and the rest of Anoka County law enforcement, I'd like to welcome you all to the 2015 Anoka County Law Enforcement Reserve graduation. Today marks the culmination of 8 weeks of training that was undertaken by new reserve officers, park rangers, and reserve deputies. During the 8 weeks of training, these volunteers received training in the areas of legal issues, radio usage, directed patrol, community-oriented policing, first aid essentials, traffic control, occupational safety, use of force, crime scene security, and canine operations. This training will give these volunteers a foundation of knowledge as they begin their new roles within their home agency. Their new roles will be many, but their primary goal is to assist their law enforcement agency in carrying out the mission of providing public safety and public service. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Chief James Cohen of the Centennial Lakes Police Department, who is our keynote speaker. Chief Cohen.
Good afternoon, welcome everyone. A special welcome to the family, friends, and colleagues of our reserve officers. Congratulations to the Reserve Academy graduates here today. We are extremely proud of your dedication, commitment, and service. For your families, we thank you for your support and your encouragement. I wish I could tell you, the graduates, that you've signed up for duties that will only occur on warm, sunny days, and that the settings will only be fairs, parades, carnivals, and days at the beach. And of course, that everyone you deal with will be polite and respectful of your directions. I probably shouldn't mention anything about severe weather, the aftermath of storms, critical events, sub-zero temperatures, standing a post at a lonely barricade in the middle of nowhere, or people who will not like you simply because you wear a uniform and a badge. Make no mistake, this will be challenging work. People don't call us when they're having a nice day. They call us in the aftermath of a terrible event, when they are threatened, hurt, sick, in need, or otherwise have a problem or a complaint. So why are you here? Some of you are interested in a career in law enforcement, others not. The reasons may vary, but the motivation is likely the same, and that is public service. You have a desire to be part of something greater than yourself, and to give something back to your community. And that something is very valuable. It is your time and your service. Your family knows that, and so do we. The extent to which you're able to give of yourself may vary. Like all of us, your lives and situations are unique. Personal demands may impact the amount of time that you're able to commit to your reserve unit. Things like family, jobs, church, school, military service, and other volunteer organizations that are important and essential aspects of your life. But all of these things are part of who you are and make you the dedicated public servant that you are. I've had a lifelong interest in police work. A lot of things have changed since I became a police officer, but some things haven't. This remains a very noble and courageous profession. In my opinion, there is nothing better than police work, whether you're a community service officer, a police patrol officer, or a police reserve officer. What I would like to do now is to share with you this afternoon some of the wisdom that I received early in my own career, from my dad, who was a police officer, from my own experience on the job, and from those colleagues and mentors that I have had that I've come to respect during my career in police work. First, take pride in yourself, your department, and in your profession. After all, there's much to be proud of. Remember to internalize and to exhibit those qualities and characteristics essential to success in police work. Things like courage, compassion, integrity, a dedication to duty, a strong work ethic, a positive attitude, and a desire to serve the public. Remember that the vast majority of the citizens that you will have contact with are good, decent, and law-abiding people. Make sure to treat them with courtesy and respect and to be as helpful as possible. Keep in mind that some people actually like the police. Keep in mind also that the only contact that a citizen might ever have with your department or with law enforcement in general may be the one day that they have contact with you. Therefore, make sure that you project a positive and professional image of yourself, your department, and of our profession. Be helpful and courteous. Let them leave you with a positive impression. Don't be afraid to ask questions or to learn from others. If you make a mistake, make sure that you recognize and owe up to your mistakes. Be there when you're needed. Don't shirk your duty. Others are relying on you. Maintain a positive attitude. Remember the adage that that attitude is everything, rather. If you ever cease to enjoy what you're doing, at least most of the time, get out of the work. Some people are simply not cut out to do this job. That does not mean that there is anything wrong with them. They simply would be happier doing something else. Life is too short to be unhappy. Having said that, though, as I mentioned, I have to tell you that I feel so very fortunate to be part of such a great profession. To me, there is no better job. I love police work as much today as when I first got into the business. It is fun, exciting, interesting, challenging, worthwhile, and rewarding. I believe that you too will find this to be a very similar experience. As you leave here today to return to your respective departments and communities, I hope that you will take these recommendations, combine it with your training and with the values that you brought here today, and make it part of your work as a reserve officer. The challenge for you now will be to merge the personal values that you live by with the professional training that you have just received, and to become peacekeepers and protectors, those who serve others with dignity, respect, fairness, and justice. Let me conclude by wishing all of the graduates here this afternoon a very safe, enjoyable, and satisfying experience as a reserve officer. Congratulations and best wishes to you all. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go through and recognize each graduate now and award their certificates, and we'll start with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Would the representatives from the Sheriff's Office please step up to the right of the stage? And I'll call you each up individually. I'd first like to recognize Reserve Deputy Colin Adair. Reserve Deputy David Evans. Reserve Deputy Luis Hernandez. Thank you. You can step down. Now I'd like to call up members of the Centennial Lakes Police Department. I'd like to call up Reserve Officer Derek DeVolos.
Derek, congratulations, Chief.
Reserve Officer Jennifer Grubbs. Reserve Officer Anthony Jering. And Reserve Officer Thaddeus Jobs. Thank you. I'd like to call up the members of the Coon Rapids Police Department. I'd like to call up Reserve Officer Andrew Hayes. Reserve Officer Mark Lyon. Reserve Officer Courtney Nothnagel. And Reserve Officer Joseph Viegel. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd now like to call up members of the Lino Lakes Police Department. Reserve Officer Leah Hansen. Reserve Officer Kenny Sina. And Reserve Officer Kyle Torres. All right, thank you. I'd like to call up the members of the Anoka County Parks Department. Park Ranger Lucas Renter. Thank you. And now I'd like to call up members of the Ramsey Police Department. Reserve Officer Amy Dacre. Reserve Officer Rebecca Hansen. Reserve Officer Katie McNally. and Reserve Officer Phil Wolstead. Thank you. Yeah. Well, in closing, I'd like to thank all of the new reserve officers, park rangers, and reserve deputies for taking the time not only to attend and participate in this training, but also for their future volunteer time, which will no doubt benefit the law enforcement agencies as well as the public that they serve. I would also like to extend my thanks to all of the training instructors and individual staff from the various law enforcement agencies who supported this training, as well as the ongoing mission of the various reserve programs in the county. Those people are too numerous to mention, but without them, this academy and the reserve programs themselves would not enjoy the success that they have. And finally, I'd like to thank the family and friends of these reserve officers, the park rangers, and the reserve deputies. Without your support, the volunteer work that these people will do for their communities would be extremely difficult. So thank you. And this will conclude our program.